Welcome to the International Symposium led by the UNESCO Chair in Democracy, Global Citizenship, and Transformative Education. The title of the symposium is Peace, Culture, and Social Justice. Our symposium includes 50+ sessions with roughly 150 presenters from more than 35 countries in English, French, Spanish, and Korean. Note that this session is being recorded. It will be live on YouTube the following day, and I'm encouraging you all to watch this in speaker view. We invite you to explore the symposium website for more information. But before we commence, I would also like to invite everyone to attend sessions as well as the keynotes and the closing ceremony. Everything is open, free, and registration can take place via the symposium website. For those unable to attend sessions via Zoom, everything is also available on our Facebook platforms in English, French, Spanish, and Korean. Now, okay, for the special guests for today, presenters, it's my pleasure to introduce our session entitled, What's Going On? Voices from the African Diaspora, the Brutalization of Black Bodies and the Struggle for Social Justice in the U.S. African Diaspora. The abstract here, some more context about this session. Artists, activists, educators, and critical race theory scholars discuss the brutalization of Black bodies and the struggle for social justice in the African diaspora, with an emphasis on the USA. Artists share their intersectional works with perspectives on race, queerness, gender, class, the effects of colonialism, and the continual systemic oppression of Black people in the United States of America. Artist-educators apply an Indigenous African restorative justice, transformative approach for Afro Futures. Our first presenter will be Mr. Harold Lloyd with a poem on Black Queer Trans Lives Mattering. Our second presenter will be Nicole Powell, Black Bodies, Punishment and Policy, From George Floyd to the Crown Act. Our next presenter will be Penelope Louder with She Shot Me. Our next presenter will be Ebony Gilbert, and Adisa Septuri will discuss I Find, their amazing award-winning documentary. Then we'll have Anna Emmy as she discusses Black maternal health and wellness in the African diaspora. And then we'll have closing comments with restorative justice educator, Dr. Jelani Ham. And also, each presenter, you know, the minutes that you will be sharing for your presentation. Like I said, you'll see this or this when it's time to wrap it up, 10 to 30 seconds. Now, without further ado, I turn to Dr. Gambino for technical information.
Thank you, Dr. Amina. Thank you, co-panelists and audience. For any of our colleagues and community who would like to listen in Spanish to this session, please click the globe on the bottom of your Zoom toolbar, and you can click the interpretation feature to enable for Spanish. Special thanks to the interpreters for help making this presentation accessible around the world. Additionally, please feel free to type comments and questions in the chat. And as Dr. Amina mentioned, we will have time for this at the end. Turning it over to colleague Harold Lloyd.
Thank you, Dr. Gambino, and thank you so much, Dr. Amina. Hello, everybody. It's so good to see y'all beautiful faces. It's some of y'all I haven't seen in a long time, and I'm just really excited to be here. And I'm really excited to share like this piece with y'all. Really quickly, but before I start, I just want to thank every presenter, every performer, and every single panelist that is involved in this work, especially Dr. Mina, always exposing anti-Blackness on a global scale. And each of our work and each of our presentations has something to do with that, and how anti-Blackness shows up in our political system, our healthcare, our education system, and we are literally in the afterlife of slavery. So this is a culmination of all of those things that I just said and all of those experiences. So yeah, this piece is called An Open Letter to the Afterlife. I think of all the broken Black boys that are in pieces, from never knowing peace and a good night sleeping. I think of all the broken Black girls who had children just to love them, just for their children to not love them back. I think of all the broken Black people in this world who can't be protected from this world. this pain, this sadness that we did not know about, like the murders of my Black trans siblings that you ain't know about. I think about how the world has been chaotic and I was just born in it. I think about how it feels to be miles away from yourself in your own home. Like the 14 days of class my Black sons and daughters missed at Crenshaw. Wiping my tears with the tattered pages of textbooks. The blues, they sound more like melodies of handcuffs slapped against my wrist on hands and feet. I wonder if we still fight the same. I wonder how politics is still war without bloodshed. I wonder what it looks like for the caged bird to escape and sing freely. Does it look like a child dipped in cold blood on concrete? Like Laquan McDonald? Like Ma'Khia Bryant? Like O'Shea Sibley? Like China Long? Like their names fall on deaf ears just as silently as the birds do. I think about my Black sons and daughters on 41st and Pulaski, whose voices will never set the ceiling on fire. I think about how this world will take us, dead or alive, if it has to. I wonder how it feels to never miss a call from home. I wonder how it feels to have an imagination, how it feels to dodge a bullet, to touch the moon, to fight back, to make a sound. When will the streets open up the earth again? When will I get to dance my way into a poem and not a casket? When will I get to make a home out of my own body? When will I get to hear my voice all over the tear gas that sounds like snakes hissing around my feet? Maybe the birds will sing a different song when a Black body follows them into the sky. Maybe I wouldn't have to wait until I'm older to understand. Maybe my wings wouldn't start to melt when I got too close to the sun. Maybe. If I wasn't a martyr for a war that I did not ask for, I will be smiling in heaven right now. After all, you know we don't get this treatment on Earth too often. That's the piece, Sean. Thank y'all so much.
All right, Mr. Harold Lloyd, thank you so much for that. Thank you. I see the audience giving you some reaction here, some reaction. Thank you. Our next presenter, Ms. Nicole Powell.
Hello, everyone. I'm so honored to be here sharing space with you all, and I feel so grateful to Dr. Amina for giving me the opportunity to speak today and expand on a presentation that I gave earlier this year related to aesthetics and anti-Blackness. And I also feel so honored to have gone after my colleague and friend Harold, especially because my presentation also relates to the impact of non-normativity and not being able to align with particular aesthetics and how that has meant exclusion from financial and social capital, exclusion from the social sphere, and even life or death in several different circumstances. So, Dr. Andrea, is it okay if I share my screen?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone see my screen? Just checking. Thumbs up. Okay, perfect.
Yes, and
Yes.
well, you may want to hit slideshow, or this view is okay.
Okay, yeah, I want to do slideshow.
Yeah.
One sec.
There you go. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. So as Dr. Amina alluded already, the subtext of my presentation is Black Bodies, Punishment, and Policy. So again, talking about how different beauty standards and aesthetics have excluded people in terms of like dress code policies, hair texture policies, skin color policies, and how historically they have been used to assign different social value to particularly Black women and other non-normative Black folks. So a brief overview of this presentation. First, I'll talk about beauty and myself and you. Particularly, there'll be origins of racialized beauty, form of reparation almost for Black women being excluded from the workplace, beauty and abolition, response to critiques, and then also how this relates to different aspects of brutalization of Black bodies. So beauty and me and you. So UCLA School of Law and the Critical Race Studies specialization. So in that specialization, under a mainstream point of view. And that is how I consider my own narrative. I also was policed in school growing up often, told I couldn't wear particular earrings.
Miss Nicole, are you with us? Nope. Nicole is having some technical difficulties and should return in just a moment. Dr. Amina, would you like to?
Penelope, how comfortable do you feel moving forward while we take care of Nicole's technical issues? And let's see, unmute. You'll have to unmute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
How comfortable do you feel? Because I do know that's why I wanted you all to share verbally, because slides, so if you can just speak on your work and share. I see Nicole is back, but I don't know how we are with the technical.
I'll just share.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me? Okay. I'll share without this just in case that makes the different dress code policies that were really rooted in anti-Blackness. For example, not being able to wear certain types of earrings, not being able to dye your hair, not being able to wear your hair in a certain type of way. And it really, oh, am I still here? Can everyone hear me?
There is some technical issues going on with your presentation. Yes.
Can everyone hear me?
Not really.
Nicole, I think I'm going to stop your camera to allow your,
Okay.
just for a moment. Let's see if we can reduce the lag. Oh, nope. Okay. Nicole's gone. Penelope.
Okay, Penelope, for the sake of time,
Yes.
can you, so without further ado, Penelope.
Okay. I will be reading a play that I wrote called She Shot Me. It's a 5-minute play. It was commissioned by the City of Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs, Voices of the Rebellion, 30th anniversary reflection of the LA Civil Uprising. I will be reading 3 characters. Without further ado, She Shot Me. A young African-American girl, 14, a young Black man, 20s, a woman, 40s, stand in the middle of the stage. A shot rings out. They react. She shot me. She shot me. She shot me. I was buying orange juice. I looted a store. I helped a man to safety. She shot me. Cameras focused on me like I was an amoeba under a microscope. I was dissected, dehumanized, sliced, sectioned, opened up. She shot me. I was thirsty, parched, didn't want to sit in classes with my throat dry from tears and frustration, crushing on a boy that wouldn't look my way, fantasizing of a life far from where I lived. She shot me. Bullets that rang out, hitting a girl my age. I didn't know her, but I knew her. She was my niece, my cousin, my sister, all who have my heart. She shot me. I was on my way to work, saw a man bloody being dragged from a truck, angry young Black men terrorized, traumatized by a police force who used them for punching bags, constantly monitoring my existence. Walking home from a date, we hear the sound of the police car. We see flashing blue and red lights. He throws his hands up. I still smell her perfume on my arm as I hold it high in the air. The Black figures walk toward me slowly, their hands on their guns, itching to take my life over one false move. My mind moves to, you kiss sweet. I liked him so much. Maybe I should have given myself to him, but I want to go to college and I'm like really, really young. He got mad at me because I wouldn't round third base. I was holding at second and didn't want to go no further. So I got this orange juice. I had this orange juice in my pocket. It stuck out like an orange juice, but because police officers are so convinced that a Black person is the enemy, their mind sees something else. Orange juice bottle is a gun. Cell phone is a gun. Bottle of water, a gun. A shot rings out. His arms come down slowly. They never see me. Shopkeeper, she never saw me. The judge never saw me. I was identified on the television screen as one of the people involved in the beating of this white man. It took me nearly 15 hours to convince the police I was helping this man. They scoffed at my humanity, made fun of my compassion, questioned if I even walked upright. They said they didn't know that people like me existed in that neighborhood. They hunt us every weekend, slowly driving up and down Jefferson, hunting for niggas. Her orange juice was more important to her than me, than me, than me. Living daily in this crazy maze, every day I used to ask myself, how much am I worth? Rodney King was a man. Those officers made him a beast. They seemed to enjoy holding me, watching me cry as they levied charges against me to coerce me into naming names they couldn't believe. We are human. I threw up the sickness of white supremacy all over my homework. Chemistry, history, math, it didn't matter anymore. She shot me. It was as if I was losing my mind. I lay on the cold floor. White supremacy gripped me over and over and over and over. I saw that little girl bleeding out on the floor. A Black man led by a dog collar as entertainment for a cop's depravity. He was someone's son, brother, cousin, uncle, loved one. I bled out, thinking about the boys I would not kiss, the marriage I would not have, the children that will never be born, the career I would never have. And I wept. She shot her. People think I'm supposed to wrap my feelings away, dance my feelings away. I couldn't take what was boiling inside of me, feeling unprotected, feeling like a constant target of hate and aggression. So I ran. I ran as fast as I could to get away from all the negativity poured into my head. making me hate myself. And I lashed out at windows, found myself in a store, grabbing for a lifeline to my existence, something to make me feel that I was actually alive, had power, purpose. I went crazy. My mind tipping, seesawing, trying to find its balance, erase the white aggression from my mind, the Black figures with nightsticks, the store owners that hate you, follow you around with their eyes, and they think they are better than you as they disrespect you in your own neighborhood and think it's okay. I let out a scream one morning and didn't realize it was me. I was standing in the middle of a liquor store around the corner. Didn't even know how I got there, but here I was screaming. The owners recording me, not knowing how to help me. I took a step toward the door, pain under my foot, cut glass open my skin. How did I get here? There I was, no shoes, no shirt, just a scream. Shot me. A system let them go. A system that has my human emotions on high alert 24/7 as I spiritually walk this earth. Lithium for my depression, Klonopin for my anxiety, Risperdal for my anger, Zoloft for my suicidal ideations. We must reach out to one another, heal our wounds together. The girl takes the hands of the young Black man and the woman. She is the bridge that brings them together. I was murdered by a storekeeper who spent not one day in jail, who is able to grow old. My life ended at 14 because her orange juice was more important than my humanity. And we wept. The young Black man and woman looked to the girl. I live for her. I live for her. They live for me. And that makes us all strong. It's out, the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Penelope. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. You're getting reactions here from us, from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nicole, I know that there were some technical difficulties. You have exactly two to 3 minutes to share something verbally without slides in regards to your presentation. We want to make sure that you have all of your points in. Is there anything else you would like to share with us about your presentation?
Sure, and yeah, I just really want to sincerely apologize. I'm not sure what's going on with the technical difficulties, but as I just said earlier, pretty much there's power in sharing your own narrative and talking about how you relate to particular issues, particularly if you're someone who's traditionally excluded from the mainstream. So I talk a little bit about my own experience with being policed as a result of the way that I present myself. And I wanted to note that desirability and beauty are political terms, not just used in their common parlance, but actually used as ways of understanding how people have access to social capital and sometimes economic capital. And historically, we've seen this be used. I was thinking of the case Hudgens v. Wright from 1804, where two women were able to plead for their freedom. And the dicta of the case, the judge actually cites to the fact that the women have particularly aquiline features, so they can't be enslaved. So just another example historically of how beauty has been used literally to set people free from enslavement, to say that certain people shouldn't be enslaved. And that's particularly true when you're a non-normative Black person. And then the Crown Act we see is a response to some of this racialized beauty and desirability, and it bans discrimination of hair texture in the workplace and different ways that people style their hair in the workplace. There's also Jesperson v. Harris, a case from 2006, in which it was a non-normative, actually a white person that presented as masculine, but still a non-normative body that was policed in their workplace. And they were terminated for not aligning their body with particular gender norms. So the Crown Act pushes back against some of this discrimination, employment discrimination, by saying that we should be able to come as our full selves and our complete selves into any space that we occupy. And then as it relates to abolition, if we truly are committed to abolition, we have to understand that beauty and desirability are axioms that continue to make people disposable, continue to say that if you don't meet this particular look or this particular aesthetic, you're wearing makeup, you're doing this or that, then you shouldn't be worthy of different social capital. So it's saying show up as the natural person that you are, show up however you want to show up, and you shouldn't be disposed of. And then in conclusion, I know I'm short on time because of the tech issues, but I just urge us to consider the ways that leadership, social connections, and opportunities are still structured by racialized beauty. If you're think of the ways that the space that you're creating gives space to particular types of aesthetics. Think of the people that you're elevating, the people that you choose to speak, and that people get the chance to speak also. Are those people dark skinned? Are these people different, occupy different types of, even in the most radical spaces? How are we still perpetuating these norms which exclude certain people and make them seem disposable? Because you still see it in a lot of these more radical spaces. I mean, Dr. Amina is someone who really makes a practice of trying to incorporate all types of marginalized voices, but you still do see it in a lot of different spaces. So yeah, no disposability. We should include all types of different aesthetics and all types of different norms, because norms also transfer into other aspects of harm, including dress code policies, which exclude certain people who don't fit aesthetics, police violence, where certain people who don't fit at certain aesthetics are targeted and surveyed more often and then subject to further violence.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you, Nicole. Now we turn to I Find with Ebony and Adisa.
Continue to interrogate the ways that we prioritize. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Now it's time for Ebony and Adisa. You have 10 minutes to share with us about your award-winning film, I Find Beauty. Yes.
Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon to you all. It is a great pleasure to participate in this year's UNESCO conference and to share this space with incredible change makers. My name is Ebony Gilbert, and I am the co-director of the documentary film I Find. I Find is a documentary film set in the Kono district of Sierra Leone, Africa, that explores and exposes the skin bleaching epidemic that is not only impacting young children on the continent of Africa, but people of color all over the world, including right here in the United States. Participating in this conference for us, alongside activists, educators, and scholars, proves that our social activism can exist in all spaces. As artists, and in particular, filmmakers, our social activism did not manifest itself as experts or even as critical race theory scholars, but simply as passionate creatures who decided to turn the camera on an issue that has been impacting our physical health, our mental health, and our culture in the face of colonialism. Apart from shining a light on a $14 billion, yes, you guys heard this right, $14 billion industry that is destroying lives, our inspiration is to show that you can hold a camera, you can pick up a phone, or you can have a pen and you can make a difference. And I would like to turn my attention now to my incredible and talented co-filmmaker, Adisa Sabtori, so he can also share his inspiration for our film.
Well, thank you very much, Ebony, for that opening. Thank you, Dr. Amina, for inviting us to this esteemed panel with all these experts and people with this great insight. I want to thank Harold Lloyd for opening it up and putting the first log on the fire. Nicole, I was also impressed by you and your presentation and the poetry or the the play was excellent. We've been dealing with skin bleaching for a long time. You know, skin bleaching is the physical manifestation of what's happening, but in terms of the bleaching of our culture, in terms of the proximity to coming into contact with white folks, in terms of the Middle Passage, I mean, it's all been this sort of assault on who we are, right? So I like to think that when we did the movie, yes, it's about skin bleaching, but it's something deeper than that, you know, and it goes to the core of who we are as a people and how we see ourselves. I just want to frame it too that I came up in the 80s. My color was an issue growing up. There was a lot of self-reflection around who I was as this complexion person, how I fit into the scheme of things. People called me, they say I wasn't Black enough, but then also I got the attention of having, so I felt that early on, didn't know what it was, 5, 6 years old, but I got the attention of what this color means to the larger society. Now, flash forward 20 years, 25 years, I'm in Africa and I'm seeing these kids that are in my village, per se, in Sierra Leone, West Africa, that are bleaching their skin. And I mean, it's just, I mean, to see it up close, to see it firsthand, it just tears at your heart, because these are young, beautiful people that should not be thinking about anything other than looking like the God color that God made them. But it is a fact. It is something we have to deal with right now. So our hope in making the movie is to shed light on the subject, to elevate it, you know, to an area of conversation. And what we so beautifully do in the movie is also highlight the beauty of Blackness, you know, the beauty of Blackness and what that feels like and looks like through one of our protagonists in the movie. So.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I wanted you guys to hear firsthand about Adisa's experience, because it was because of him and his relationship with these children that we were able to go into this community and shine this light. This was not just a passion project for us, but something that was an extension of the social activism within us. And we hope that this inspires you all, that you don't have to have a great platform. All you need is a story to tell to help push our community ahead. At this time, I would like to ask the incredible Dr. Gambino if she can share our trailer with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ebony. Thank you, Adisa.
This one, I wanted to put this. It was fresh because when you come on fine beauty, you come on fine, it's a beauty. Then beauty pass me, then fine pass me. No longer rational body. I don't know quality way I get so many Rihanna. The kind of woman who would like to be into toxic and awful market. And so I will be preaching all day.
Particularly my area, to me, different. I dress while the dress fine or make since we are like that for fashion. Want to say this?
Thank you all so very much. You will have an opportunity to rewatch the trailer by going to iFindDocumentary.com. There you can also find more information about the film. And we really want to show the website because not only to support the film, but we really would like your support in helping the children of Goin On. Those are the brave ones who shared their stories, and we really want to continue to give them opportunities to be the authors of their own stories. And Adisa, would you like to share anything else?
No, I just want to, I guess, close out by saying we can all do our part. We have to find it within ourselves, both individually and collectively within our families. It really starts with the family again, reestablishing the connections with the family, loving each other, so that even in our own families, we cannot pick on each other around color, and we can deal with a level of acceptance, because we're always going to deal with this combative force that's outside of ourselves, this psychopathic, this racial personality, this whiteness that always, I've heard the word anti-Blackness come up a few times on here, or anti-Black, that campaign thing, that's always going to affront us, no matter where we go. And so there's a way that we can insulate ourselves, both spiritually, mentally, and physically, that we don't let that penetrate our psyches. And we can do that with our children. We can do that with one another. We can do that on this call right now by being very nurturing and loving and sensitive to each other. So I just want to offer that up.
Thank you all so very much. And thank you, Dr. Amina, for this opportunity.
Very welcome. Can we please give them some reaction? I find. And would you all like to make a special announcement to the crowd in regards to I find and all of the awards that you have been winning and up for globally? We want to follow you. We want to cheer you on. So please take your moment to tell the audience globally where I find is in regards to award season.
Well, first and foremost, our #1 main fan club all over the United States and globally around the world, Dr. Amina. Thank you. Membership and enrollment is at an all-time plus because of you.
That is true.
I would just say now that we're in the Oscar race. We're going to be running for the Oscar race here in America. But on tomorrow, both Ebony and myself are flying to Nigeria. Anybody on the call from Nigeria?
Oh, come through, Melva. Come through, Melva from Nigeria. She's here from Nigeria representing.
Yeah, I'm here.
Send some love our way, because we'll be touching down in Lagos, Nigeria tomorrow. We fly out tomorrow for the African Movie Awards, where we're nominated for Best Documentary.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. And with that said, I just want to make this announcement. This session, we have been granted 10 extra minutes, so we'll go till 10:40. We thank you for those minutes because of the technical difficulties. So we'll have a number of minutes for our Q&A with our audience. So audience, please think about your questions for all of our brilliant artists, activists, philanthropists. And now I turn to Anna. You have 10 minutes to share with us. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Ebony, just can't stop smiling off of the work that you're doing. It's like a personal connection with what I'll share and just with my own background and identity. Also representing Nigeria, based in the US. So shout out to the diaspora. Yeah, really happy to be here with you all. Sending another wave of kudos and gratitude and thanks to Dr. Amina for spearheading this effort for us and really pioneering and putting our stories to a larger audience. So really appreciate that. My name is Anna Uche-Eme, originally born and raised in Los Angeles, and as I shared, I'm of Nigerian descent. My background is in public health, and specifically I've spent almost the past decade dedicating my life, research, travels, and energy and efforts to improving maternal health outcomes for women, specifically representing the African diaspora and on the continent. And so my short background, again, actually started in Sierra Leone in 2017, where I spent 2 years working with the Peace Corps, specifically on community health projects and supporting rural health initiatives that were focused on centering pregnancy models. And there I was able to work and meet with a number of traditional birth attendants who we know as community midwives, and really working on rebuilding the post-Ebola health infrastructure system, particularly, again, with the focus on maternal health. At the time, Sierra Leone was known as having the highest maternal mortality rates in the world. And so really being able to work at that grassroots community level to work hand in hand with these rural environments. And so that sparked a fire in me and led me on a journey to a number of other places. But most immediately after my time in Sierra Leone, I had the opportunity to work in Haiti. And so living in Haiti for almost a year and working specifically on very similar projects, rural health, maternal health, and specifically building the midwifery workforce. As we all know, Haiti has had a number of political, social, and economic hardships throughout the year, historically known as the first free Black nation. But again, in present times, being able to support women, community midwives who are known as matrones there, and offer technical assistance support, supply chain procurement support, and again, having that cultural tie and connectivity to the power that is maternal health through the women there. I also want to note that statistically, Haiti has been categorized as having the highest maternal mortality rates in the Western Hemisphere. And so by that time, I was already picking up on a pattern. And naturally, it has led me to where I am today. I'm currently based in Atlanta, Georgia, where I work with private philanthropy and offer grant making for maternal health initiatives. And it's to no surprise or guess that I am also working in a place that is, I think, 49th out of 50 in the United States of having the highest maternal mortality rates. And so living and working now in the South, and specifically looking at the rural South here in Georgia, these numbers and patterns are still the same consistently throughout these 3 places in the world. And so I'm here to share a little bit about what I've presented on previously around specifically the workforce, looking at community midwives, midwifery, and how historically here in the US context, it also has its roots in the dehumanization of Black women. And so, again, want to really focus on that the history of Black midwifery is noted as one of the darkest moments in US history due to its systemic eradication of the African American midwife from her community, which has then resulted in a legacy of birth injustices. So taking a look back at historical practices that have led up to a lot of these health disparities that we see now in this day and age, particularly against Black women and the maternal health crisis, it's to no surprise that there are a lot of similar instances of race-based prejudice and neglect in a lot of cases. So wanting to share some statistics, according to the CDC, a Black woman is over 2 times more likely to die from pregnant or childbirth-related causes. And that is still true to this day. That's data that's from 2019, so pre-COVID data to now post or still in COVID times, that number is only worsened. And in regards to women's health, that is known as the widest racial disparity that we're seeing in our day and age. And so I just want to highlight the significance of the role of the midwife, and specifically a community midwife in this sort of Afro and Black context. And so midwives, and particularly Black midwives, for centuries have played that critical role in improving the care and outcomes for Black families. And at the same time, these midwives have also faced extra and unnecessary and often extreme challenges when it comes to being able to practice and serve the families in need. And so looking at around the 1600s during the height of the slave trade. Midwifery within the African and also early African American community has direct roots, tying all the way back to the 17th century, where Europeans had brought African slave women skilled in midwifery specifically to help in sort of breeding and maintaining their enslaved people. When we look into the 1700s and 1800s, that's where the practice of obstetrics was introduced in the US, and that took away directly from the community-based model and started to work towards a more hospital-based model. And not only that, but was at the exclusion of Black practitioners in particular. So where we now see a decrease from having women in the workforce to now having obstetrics and gynecology being a male-dominated field at the time. Although with that increase of personnel, there was still an increase of Black midwives and community midwives that practice in more rural areas. And even now in the 1900s, up until present times, public health care reformers and physicians have continuously put in acts and laws here in this country, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute, that have purposefully excluded the skill set of midwifery. And so having sort of the categorization that midwifery is an unsanitary and superstitious practice, it takes away and strips from the traditions of which its origins are from. And a lot of that is, again, just laced in discriminatory practices. And so one of the healthcare reform acts that came about was the 1921 Shepherd-Towner Act. And so that's where you started to see, again, the workforce changing from the traditional Black community midwives that were servicing women to now having an exclusion placed in law that prohibited midwives, granny midwives, grannies, those lay midwives from practicing. And on top of that, changing a lot of the requirements for which one would be able to obtain practice and laws. And so when we think about the early 1900s, we think about the suffrage rights movement for women, but that did not include Black women at all, actually. And so, again, if I'm going back and forth with the timeline of history, even at the time of early 1900s, up to 30% of infants died before reaching their first birthday. But when we look at and this is specific to all infants, but when we look at our data and numbers of today, we're still seeing high number of infant mortality and maternal mortality rates, specifically for Black women. And again, this has ties to the Jim Crow era, with having the mammy caricature being a huge stereotype that played a role in sort of changing the narrative and perspective of what Black midwifery care or Black maternal health care should and could look like, and its effectiveness to actually support women. And so bringing it back to contemporary times, just want to really point out that the main contributions to maternal mortality include the unconscious bias that physicians, practitioners do place on Black women. And that includes ignoring Black women's plea for medical attention. This is dismissing healthcare needs of pregnant and postpartum Black women. And I really want to emphasize that this is a continuum across age bracket, social economic income, and other factors that we might think would provide better access to healthcare. And so knowing that this maternal health crisis that we're currently facing as a nation, and more specifically in the South, is not necessarily anything outside of racism. And so having that in mind, there is a well-demonstrated need for healthcare professionals to represent the communities that they serve. And so really having a more equitable push towards diversifying the workforce, which essentially is just returning to that same community-centered care model for midwifery. We do see now an influx of attention given to doulas, practicing doulas, auxiliary medical care, and the specific need to have community-based support for women, for all women essentially, but particularly for Black women. And so the whole idea really, there's so much of the statistics and programming and policy and work that's happening in conjunction, but just wanting to really bring it back home to the point that Black women and Black midwives deserve to be seen, heard, respected, and understood in order to get their needs met. And so I just wanted to share that experience and really bringing it back across the globe, that this fight is still a fight, and really being able to share this story with y'all can hopefully inspire you all to reach out to your communities and learn more about maternal health. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna, for that. Yes, thank you so much. You're getting some reactions here in the chat and hearts and hand claps, so thank you. Next, we turn to Dr. Jelani Ham, a restorative justice educator, and for some concluding comments, 3 to 5 minutes of concluding comments, thinking about his work as a restorative justice educator and how that applies to our Afro Futures, Afrofuturism, given the concepts and topics presented today, some insights from his expertise on restorative justice, but African indigenous restorative justice practices. Dr. Ham, I turn to you for our concluding comments.
Great, thank you very much. And first of all, I want to thank Amina. I thank her for the many years of friendship and exchange of ideas. Amina consistently sends me information about some of the arts activities here in Los Angeles, and her passion for art and the intersection of art, culture, knowledge is pretty amazing. Oftentimes my head is spinning with her activities. I don't know how she's able to do it. So thank you for being here, and it's really great to exchange ideas and to hear ideas from everyone, starting with Harold and his poetry. I'm just really struck by the broken Black boys and broken Black girls. And this idea of brokenness has been really profound for me in my life. First of all, traveling to Senegal for about 20 years ago and discovering an artist who makes art from broken pieces. And it was my healing and understanding that we as Black people, our healing lies in the brokenness and the putting of pieces together, our quilt making, our soul food, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I think that's our power, and it is our healing. And so my work in restorative justice in a public school setting has been getting all of those ideas. And I often tell the adults and the students that I work with that sitting in a circle is a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and seeing how that little bit of this and a little bit of that in a horizontal formation like a circle has been our power. It was our power in the civil rights movement when we pulled a lot of people together from different spaces. Oftentimes the men were out front, but it was a movement that also included the matriarchal practices that we come with. And so just building on that has been a profound change in my life, and discovering these formations of circles. And so over the last 20 years, I've made quite a lot of trips to Senegal, and traveling a lot, not only in Dakar, but traveling a lot out to villages, and to seeing how that oftentimes the villages, well, they don't have police officers, but they're able to find their solutions within the circle. I was fortunate enough this past summer to take a group of 13 women, and the focus was looking at the role of women historically in that region. And there was this idea of patriarchy and the way that it has oppressed many people of color around the world, particularly since the 1600s, was really profound to see the old narrative of narrative formations and the stories that was not hierarchical, but it was horizontal, noting the differences in roles of men and women, but there was no hierarchy, and seeing the power in that. And so in thinking about representations, narrative, societal formations, and seeing how since the invention of race in the 1600s, how it has worked against us. And so sitting in a circle like this with all of the ideas and the beautiful art that has brought forward, I really just think that this is our power. Seeing how at this time with so many changes in cultures and countries, and particularly in Francophone countries, where we've seen like a series of coups, and seeing how art has played a role in that. And art has always played a role in that. I'm thinking of a film that I saw a couple of years ago, doing the twist in Bamako, and it gave a profound history of France in the region, and the economic formation of the CFA, which is a monetary unit, and seeing how, looking at a nostalgic period of the 1960s, I think we're at that nostalgic period once again, but I think we're taking it to a different level. The CFA was mentioned in that film from 40 years ago, but seeing how now, places like Mali, they're saying we don't want to use the French colonial language anymore, seeing how France is being kicked out and around in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Niger. While Senegal is not having a coup, the people of Senegal are saying we don't want a French puppet leader. And so the opposition leader is ranking very high in the polls, which will occur in a few months. So just seeing the power of art, I guess I'll just quickly say thank you all for being amazing. We have a lot of power amongst us with all the broken pieces of our quilt coming from different angles, from I Find to the looking at doulas, using art to have a 5-minute play is just really powerful and very inspiring. And I think our artistic expressions from being pushed to these places is what really makes us magnificent. So thank you for the invitation to be in the circle.
Thank you, Dr. Ham. Thank you, Dr. Jelani Ham. We appreciate everyone today who has presented, and we're going to open up the floor now for questions. And I also want to take time to acknowledge my new El Camino College family. I see professor or professors, I see student or students. And I want to take the time to acknowledge El Camino College, Department of Ethnic Studies and Social Justice. Thank you. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Ms. Ramos. Thank you, Sergio. Now we open up the floor for questions. We have about 12 minutes. And so we want to open up the session for our global audience for questions and or comments.
Hello, everyone. I do have a question, but before I get to my question, I do want to reiterate what was just said. This is such a special space to share. And as artists in particular, it really proves that we can really use our art as activism and to like push forward our community. So this is such a dream to be in this sacred space with you all. So thank you for the invitation. My question is for Anna. I'm just so incredibly inspired by the work that you're doing. What could we do as a community to really inspire more people to become doulas so that we can address this issue in our community?
Thank you, Ebony. It's a great question. And I think now that I'm working in philanthropy and essentially working in grant making, it's been a really eye-opening experience to know that there is an abundance of resources, and yet there's still a need to sort of strategically plan on aligning with community organizations to help them achieve their goals, and to also work within, the sort of governing structures of philanthropy itself, because that's a whole other industry that has their own set of bylaws and has a lot of work to do as well in the equity space. And so one thing that we've been really pushing on is really tracking that workforce development momentum that's being pushed. A lot of policy that has come out in this most recent legislative session here in Georgia has essentially advocated for Medicaid reimbursement for doulas. I think one was the Community Midwife Act that was simply introduced in this past session, but that alone provided a lot of momentum for community organizations to really amp up their advocacy work to say, we need, not just that we need doulas, but we need them in these spaces, in the hospitals, in the communities, and looking at data and reports and studies that are happening in tandem that inform, use data to inform everything, to inform programs, policies, and really show a way to move forward. And so just being able to align in this particular field to that momentum is what I've been able to do. But I would share the same thing as artists, is really working on storytelling projects and working on ways to communicate and share stories. There's a lot of that has been happening in the Black maternal health space as well. So I think both as creatives, as researchers, as politicians, there's so much that we can do. It just needs to be a concerted effort as well. So yeah, there's a lot of momentum happening.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I'm turning to the chat now. I believe that Gina had a comment for you, Anna. Let's see here. Dear Anna, how are you able to be so rigorous in describing the situation and in the same time keeping your beautiful and discreet smile and also sweet voice, which gives us hope despite the dramatic situation? So how are you able to be so rigorous? Tell us more about your background and all of that. You've done some amazing work in the African diaspora as well as your educational background.
Yeah, no, I did see that comment, Gina. Thank you so much, especially given that I'm definitely recovering from a cold. But I mean, a lot of this is my passion, my hard work. Like I said, for a majority of this past decade, I've really just dialed in and really combining other passions for travel and for social justice work, and really being community oriented and invested in community. And so every experience that I've had has been a tremendous learning experience. It's taken me completely out of my comfort zone, but has also brought me closer to myself, because again, my work has specifically focused on women of the African continent and the diaspora, which also includes me. And so in a lot of the work that I involved myself in, and even some of the photos that I had shared, like I'm speaking with people who remind me of me at different stages, or it's just something that I feel very connected to on a spiritual level, on top of just having the desire and the expertise and background and so on and so forth. And I think that is also true for a lot of the speakers that we heard today, is like a lot of this work is our passion, and that's how we're able to push the needle forward. And it's not a fun thing to discuss around health disparities and the lack of support and looking outside and seeing that there's a clear divide between who has access and who doesn't. But it is those moments of connecting with individuals who are doing the work day in and day out, and figuring out strategies and coming up with solutions, and even hosting spaces like this with Dr. Amina's support is just really being able to lean on each other to move the needle forward.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for that. Adisa has a question, and then Penelope has a question.
Thank you, Dr. Amina. Yeah, I have a question for Nicole and the doctor who did the closing. A lot of what we deal with is, for me, and you mentioned that when you, doctor, when you talked about race and the construction of that in the 1600s. And I noticed when I saw Nicole on one of her slides, she had the hot comb, And so how do we deal with the language which is constructively racist, which would, in terms of how we relate to each other, how do we reframe that? Because for me, from a colorism point of view, when I say dark, in their context, I'm saying ugly, not attractive, I'm saying stupid, in terms of darkness, whatever they've constructed that to be. So how do we, or do you have any ideas of how do we advance another language that we can speak about our condition in a more affirming way? Does that make sense?
For me, I think one of the things that has worked best for the owners in this paradigm that we live in has been their use of language. And I think doing exactly what you're doing and, you know, making artistic expressions and really renaming things. I mean, I think you already said it, renaming or reframing, deconstructing. I think oftentimes we get distracted by quote unquote racism, but we don't take it to the deeper level and realize that it's racial capitalism that we're talking about. And to see those formations and to really call it out, deconstruct it, and name it exactly what it is, as a, you know, it's a structure that benefits a very small, minute group of people, and that's been there since the invention of race and the use of race. But then I also think just really renaming who we are. You know, the whole Black and Beautiful was a powerful movement. Looking at the last 30 years and how people, the capitalists, have used all the softer ways of naming very, very toxic things. All of the narratives in the Reagan era and since has been softening, you know, you really ways of oppressing people and harming people. And I just think we just have to take it back and name ourselves, because I mean, we're really beautiful and can't help ourselves.
Thank you. And thank you for that, Dr. Ham. Nicole is not with us, so that I know you directed the question to both Dr. Ham and Nicole. So thank you for that, Dr. Ham. And Penelope, your question. We have about 5 more minutes, 3 more minutes. We will make sure we get our questions in. So Penelope.
Okay, this is going to be very quick. And this may be a question, initially it's for Ebony and Adisa, but if Dr. Ham can weigh in on this. I love the documentary. I haven't seen it. I just love the concept of it and I want to see it. But I'd like to know, how do we reconcile the fact that people like, you know, entertainers like Beyonce, you know, they use European beauty. And unfortunately, young Black girls see this. And very quickly, I was doing an after-school project, and we had to do modeling clay for the girls, had to model little, you know, figures after themselves. And the Black girls all wanted tan. None of them, these were young kids, these were like elementary school kids. None of them wanted brown at all. All of them literally wanted tan. Can you speak to that? And how, and I know Beyonce has to eat and work, you know, but how entertainers can improve the images of, or promote African-American beauty or African beauty instead of leaning towards more the European beauty standards.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that question. And I think that it really comes in when we offer various perspectives on what beauty looks like and not just one idea of what beauty looks like. I think that becomes one of the biggest issues. And for example, in our documentary film, as Adisa pointed out, we really wanted to incorporate not just this epidemic that was going on, but to celebrate the beauty of Blackness by having a narrative portion of the documentary that was highlighting a young woman of a darker hue. When we have only people like the lighter tone entertainers, that's when it becomes a problem. But when we also lift up people like Viola Davis and Lupita and all these other beautiful people, as Dr. Jelani pointed out, the Black is Beauty movement that we had in the US, that's really important for that balance, so that young women see themselves reflected in these images on the covers of the magazines, on the billboards, that they are beautiful in their natural selves. And it goes, it dates back much later than just when entertainers were on the forefront. You know what I mean? This happened, skin bleaching happened way before we had social media and we had, all these other platforms. But unfortunately, these things highlighted it even more. So I don't want to take up all the time. I would like Adisa and Dr. Jelani to also weigh in on that. But thanks for that question.
Yeah, I would just offer up that, everybody needs to get on board. We're image makers. So of course, my first instinct around, and I'm going to be training other filmmakers, and I have an institute in Sierra Leone, West Africa, where I'm training filmmakers to see Black first, to see the beautiful Black, the Black Madonna. Before they were copycats, before they were imitators, we were the original people. Egypt was Black. So we're going to be teaching and instructing and grooming filmmakers on that line. I think that's one thing. And then we just have poor examples. Our entertainers, our athletes, the brothers out there playing basketball, all marrying white wives or light women. You just see it over and over again, like they're marrying or they're exalting this prize, right? It's everywhere. Just call a thing. So I think not that you can't call people out on their own personal preferences, but they bought into the Kool-Aid, if you will. And that part of it, I just think you just have to set a personal example, for myself, in terms of, how I exude myself, how I respect people, how I exalt people, and our own personal people, for instance. And I think the color Blackness has just we got to put a new spin on it. I mean, or maybe an old spin, because Black was the original. You can't get nothing from white. You can't get nothing from beige. But from Black, you can get everything. You can get everything under the rainbow. So we just need to go back to that teaching. I mean, that's a teaching, and that's something that we should take pride in, as being the original people. So, yeah.
Okay. All right, we have reached time, everyone. So thank you for that. And one other thing, I do see some consciousness coming out of the entertainment industry. India Ari with her celebration of skin color and hair texture. Beyonce, brown skinned girls. And so I'm starting to see people acknowledging the full range of phenotype. So I'm glad to see it. But also this has a historical marker too, going back to the Kenneth and Mamie Clark doll test. And many research studies about colorism, the brown paper bag test, Black is, Black ain't, Marlon Riggs. So there's some cultural context and researchers who study this too as well. And then the final thing I would say is just this notion of decolonialism. Frantz Fanon, thinking about the colonized mind. So we also have to frame this within a teaching research trajectory too as well. So Dr. Gambino, do you have any words before I close up here?
I would just like to thank you all so much for sharing the power of your stories, your research, your activism. I think Gina Thisse also says it very well. This is not only a session in the Symposium-DCMÉT, it is a project together. Thank you indefinitely. The online communities want to see you all back next year. So we thank you. And if there's any final links in the chat, we've got lots of requests for folks who want to make donations, follow your work further, and even asking about if you'll accept online currency. We're going to see iFind win. So we're so excited for all of you. Dr. Amina, thank you for bringing all of us together and close us out.
All right. And please, artists, please put your handles into the chat. The global audience wants to follow you and know more about you. So please do that while I close. I want to say thank you to both sessions, I should say, both of the sessions. We had the Black Critical Media Literacy Conference, Awareness, Action, and Advocacy in the African Diaspora. I started that conference last year, and we had representation from many African, Caribbean nations and beyond. And so I'm glad to see that we could come together here in this platform. And so I share this with you. You can also look at some of our previous work from some of our presenters here on the blackcriticalmedialiteracy.com website, as well as our social media and handles. Now, with that said, I want to say to everyone, our global audience, thank you so much for attending this session. Thank you to our presenters. Please continue to follow the symposium through the website, the Facebook page, and the YouTube page. We have an introductory session each day at 9 a.m., and we encourage you to learn more about the symposium. Once again, many thanks to everyone, and I hope that everyone enjoyed this session. And please do not hesitate to contact us or to contact the dialogue through one of the social media platforms of UNESCO Chair. So thank you so much for today. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you, El Camino College professors and students. And thank you to my former students who are also in attendance here too as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Dr.
Thank you and goodbye. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful.